President Cyril Ramaphosa expected to face a barrage of questions from members of Parliament today. The Democratic Alliance has asked the President to respond to what is being done to combat gender-based violence. He is also expected to touch on reducing the risk of load shedding. MPs are also seeking answers over the 2020 theft at Phala Phala game farm in Limpopo. That's the farm which belongs to the President. Let's get some perspective now on what the President should be telling the South African public, and we speak to the newly minted Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance in Parliament, Siviwe Gwarube. Siviwe, good morning to you. Let's start with what you as the main opposition expect of the President. The understanding is that your questions to him center around GBV and what is being done in the country, and we can't stress that enough. That has been declared by the President himself as a second pandemic.
Yeah. Good morning, Oli, and good morning to your viewers. I think there are a number of questions that the President is going to have to at least to give some insight into this afternoon, GBV being one of them, but also he's going to be facing a number of questions from other opposition parties, particularly around Phala Phala. I think that this is an opportunity for the President, in fact, this afternoon, to really, take the nation into his confidence and provide some much needed answers around what has taken place in his farm. We understand that there are a number of investigations that are ongoing, but that doesn't stop the President from at least being able to say, this is what I know, this is what I knew, and this is how I'm cooperating with law enforcement agencies. But his strategy of simply keeping quiet and hoping this will go away is not doing him any favors. And in fact, what we are of the view of is that Parliament should actually be one of the institutions that are in the forefront of making sure that we get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, you talk about his strategy of not saying anything around the matter of Phala Phala in particular. And I'm of the view, Siviwe, that perhaps that strategy will likely continue today because the President very conveniently has other business to conduct in Gauteng, and therefore it is going to be a virtual hearing or a virtual sitting. How do you do that as MPs when he is physically not in Parliament, where you can interject and say, my question has not been responded to?
Yeah. Look, and that's part of the reason why, actually, you'll remember, if you read any of the volumes of the Zondo Commission report, you will see that one of the big things was that Parliament was actually in the dark very much during state capture because of its inaction. And that's one of the things I think for me as a priority, as somebody walking into this position, is one of the things that I think needs attention. And some of the things that need the rules to be amended, because currently a member of the executive, be it the President, the Minister, or whoever else, can provide a response, but there is no benchmark in the rules in Parliament that states whether or not, an answer is responded to adequately. And our view is that while that's not necessarily always an objective scale, but there should be some level of being able to ascertain whether or not somebody has responded to a question. So it's one of the things that we think really should be amended in the rules of Parliament so that people can stop wasting the people's time coming into Parliament and not responding to questions. But with regards to this particular issue, this is why Oli, we are exploring our legal options around the Speaker's decision not to grant the DA the ad hoc committee that we requested, because we are of the view that an ad hoc committee would be able to have the powers to subpoena the President, to have the powers to call witnesses and get to the bottom of what has happened in that farm. And so our view is that the Speaker is really repeating the previous mistakes of her predecessors by not allowing Parliament to exercise its oversight role in this regard.
Yeah, in fact, you've just answered that question, because I was going to put it to you that what is it that you have done as opposition parties to see to it that the President responds to these questions? He's the head of state. He can't have a cloud that remains over his head, whilst he says, on the other hand, that law enforcement processes are ongoing. I'm not sure whether I'm being too much of a skeptic when I say that law enforcement answers to the very president, even though indeed we're told that they operate independently. But imagine a scenario where the police go and arrest the president, a sitting president at that. Is that something even feasible?
No, and this is exactly why, we are of the view that, the Parliament has completely, over the past decade, also neglected its responsibilities to the people of South Africa, because at the very least, the national legislature is a separate arm of the state, and it should conduct its business in that way. And it should not matter whether or not over 50% of the people who sit in those benches belong to a particular political party. We should all be committed to making sure that we do our jobs as we were elected to serve by the people of South Africa. And so we're not going to let this matter go. We know that other opposition parties have other views. There's the Section 89 inquiry, which is ongoing now, that will be examining the feasibility of an impeachment inquiry into the president. We are participating in that. We will be submitting our names to that independent panel. But we really think that this ad hoc committee will really give us the kind of information that we need, because ultimately it's not about us wanting to find out from the president what happened and whether or not notes were stuffed in his couch. We have been sent by the people of South Africa, and we've got to be able to explore all of these issues in a transparent manner. And so that's why we really are not wanting to let this ad hoc committee go. This is exactly how it happened under Nkandla. You'll remember the Nkandla ad hoc committee had these powers, and in fact that's when we discovered things like the fire pool and the like. And so these things are quite important, and so that is something that we're not going to let go of.
Yeah. So let's talk politics now. And these are politics that relate directly to your party. Yesterday I had a conversation with the spokesperson of the DA, Soli Malatsi, and I used the word cosmetic changes, and this was in reference to your appointment in the position that you now hold. And I want, against my better judgment, I want to withdraw that particular characterization of an appointment that is cosmetic. Now, with that done, that withdrawal done, I would like you to explain to South Africans, against the background of a whole lot of young black professionals who have left this party, why you think that you have a future in the Democratic Alliance as a young black professional.
Thank you, Oli, and thank you for that withdrawal, because as I indicated to you, I thought it was most unfortunate, because you see, Oli, if we are going to amplify the narrative that there are talented black people in the DA who are leaving, it's not fair then to the people that do ascend to different positions within the organization to simply then disregard those as tokenism or simply cosmetic changes. It's also deeply disappointing because, of course, the reality here is that I'm not going to sit here and defend my track record. I think that if anyone has been following Parliament, at least in the last 3 years, will know my record quite publicly. And so I know that I have earned the position that I'm in now. And it's definitely nothing to scoff at. But on the issue of young people in the Democratic Alliance, I think it's also important to state upfront that no political party will ever take any pride in losing people amongst its ranks. But let's also be fair, Oli, in saying that the political landscape in South Africa is changing. There are various parties and political new entrants in the market. There are various movements in the market. And a lot of people are asking themselves the question, how best do I serve my country?
Yeah.
And no one has the monopoly on what is the correct answer or what is the correct course of action in South Africa. We are of the view as the official opposition that we're going to keep doing what we are doing. We're going to keep governing in the places that we govern, even by coalitions. We're going to continue using what we have in our power to change the lives of South Africans where we govern. And other people are deciding to do something different. In fact, I have a very different view to people saying, I was part of the organization for 20 years. I want something different. I think that people should be allowed to do that. And in fact, we should be able to say that's part of their democratic right. I think the people who fought for our liberation didn't fight for it so that you can have a lifelong commitment to a political party. Our DA is to attract new talent and is to keep the course. But if people want and choose to do something else, that should be fine.
So how do you then explain to South Africans, we are a majority young country or youthful country, and in the majority are black people? The very young black professionals who have been in your party are leaving, saying that this is not a party that represents my aspirations anymore. And we can't wish away what has been an issue for the Democratic Alliance, and that is the party has been seen as being racist at times. And so the exodus, and I use that word very advisedly because it's not now, only now, that these resignations are happening in the Democratic Alliance. They've happened before. So what gives the Democratic Alliance hope that it is going to appeal to that very black vote when young black professionals are leaving the party?
Look, I think only two things, I think, to in response to that question. That one, I think there needs to be an appreciation that the Democratic Alliance is trying to do something that other political parties have long given up on. And that is being able to bring South Africans from all race groups, from all religious groups under one umbrella of a liberal organization in an African context, in a South African context. It's something that other political parties don't bother themselves with. A lot of political parties have decided what their target market is, and that's what they pursue. We are doing something very different. And in a country like ours that has a racial history like we do, of racial discrimination, of a painful history of apartheid, that is not something that is an easy thing to do when you bring these people under one roof and you say these are the ideals that we pursue. So we understand that, of course, this is going to be a complicated process, but it's worth it. Because when we talk about non-racialism in the Constitution, this is what we were talking about. That's the one thing. And I want to remind you about that because look across the political landscape and tell me which other political party of our size is doing the same thing that we are trying to do, number one. And number two, I think also there has been, of course, when people leave, I mean, good friends of mine have decided to do different things. For instance, Mbali Ntuli decided, she wants to immerse herself in a grassroots organization. Makashule Ghana is trying to do something else and a new political entrance. And for me, the departure point for all of this, Xoli, is very different from you, where I think that when young South Africans are wanting to do things differently, we should allow them. Ours as the DA, though, is to attract people to the organizations that are talented. And it's also unfair, again, Xoli, because when people leave, it's as though there aren't any more people left in the Democratic Alliance. And I think it probably is deeply offensive to young dynamic people in our provinces who are doing amazing things, our councillors, our MPLs, and some of our MPs in the benches of parliament. And so really ours is going to be an arduous task ahead of 2024. We've got to leverage what we are doing in the cities where we govern. We've got to become an alternative that people who opted to stop voting for the ANC can take the next step of voting for the DA. And I think that we've got a good chance of doing that. In fact, I'm excited about the future.
Yeah. All right. Siviwe Gwarube, let me wish you all the best in your new responsibilities. And thank you very much for your time.